Hello, Mark Laudi here with a review of the Bursa Malaysia PLC Transformation Program eBook 2. And the core of this is really all about sustainability and how to implement your sustainability strategy. Core to this ebook is turning words into action. And it in fact has here on page 8 a story that might be familiar to you. You've already decided that as a company you must have an ESG strategy. You've possibly already published such a strategy. Investors are asking you about it. The board knows that something must happen, and management wants to come to the party but hasn't yet been able to operationalize the ESG strategy, hasn't really been able to get sustainability fully integrated into the business. So what to do? And that is really what eBook 2 is all about. The focus here is really to, once again, turn words into action. And in the next couple of minutes, I'll walk you through, firstly, some of the evidence for why you need to do that, but also some of those key steps before I invite you to read the ebook for yourself. It's about 100 pages again, but this time there is also an executive summary of about 11 pages. So here are some of those key statistics. What this shows you, in essence, is that a large number of publicly listed companies, almost all of them, have an ESG strategy, but only 62%, fewer than 2 in 3, have actually implemented the strategy, brought it fully into the operations, operationalized it. Fewer than 1 in 5 have had their ESG strategy externally assured. In other words, fewer than 1 in 5 have had a third party look over it and give it the thumbs up, give it the stamp of approval. So what that suggests is that investors will look at your strategy and say, are you just saying this, or have you had some independent review of it? And so clearly that is a gap that needs to be closed. And also one other big feature of this eBook 2 and sustainability is the societal, and in particular the labor relations impact. Usually when we think of ESG, we talk about the environmental aspects and perhaps the governance aspects, but it's actually the societal aspects that get a big hearing in the PLC Transformation Program eBook 2. Some more stats to convince you of the need to do this. This chart shows you how important intangible assets have become over the years. In other words, not the fleet of vehicles or the factory or even the cash that you have on hand. Those are the tangibles. What's become increasingly important are the intangibles, such as your reputation, the value of your IP, intellectual property, the value of your research and development, and yes, also your ESG performance. And all of that is making a huge impact these days on the valuations of companies. Whereas before, that might have been less than 1 in $5 of the value of your company. Now it's 9 in 10. And if you still need convincing, take a look at the next statistics here, which will in essence show you just how important this has become to investors and other stakeholders. Whereas before we looked very much at those E and G topics, right? In other words, the environmental topics, topics about technical issues. Here on page 13, you can see just how those social issues have now increasingly come to the fore. How much value stakeholders are placing on how you treat people, how you treat your staff, how you treat society at large. Now, many companies already see the value in that, and it says here in this graphic that almost 7 out of 10 of the investors in companies already think that ESG performance should be linked to your pay. So if you are in the senior leadership team of a Bursa-listed company, you can count on the fact that 7 in 10 investors think that you should be paid according to how well you score. Among companies themselves, according to the research here, 8 in 10 board members and executives agree that ESG contributes to the performance. So if your pay is performance linked, then therefore it should be ESG linked. But what you can also see is that out of the FTSE 100 companies, only 45 of them actually have implemented this. They say they understand the value of ESG. Investors think performance, including ESG, should make its presence felt in how much you get paid, but very few companies actually do so. Right, so those are the statistics which really bear out how important ESG is to the value of your company and what your investors think about you. So what are we to do? how can you now turn strategy into action? And that's where these few slides kind of summarize the 100 or so pages in the eBook 3. The first thing that you see here in this graphic is how we've moved on from some of the older ways of thinking. We're no longer just talking about profit, we're talking about value. People are no longer just talking about maximization, they're talking about optimization. Instead of shareholders, we take in other stakeholders, such as staff, suppliers, customers, society at large. Instead of short-term, we're thinking long-term, and instead of just thinking of the competition, we're looking to collaborate with competitors as well. All of the actions that you need to take are brought together in this wheel. These 6 slices of the pie really summarize what it is that you need to do, and you'll find it in eBook 2. Starting with a value creation strategy, implementing those sustainability initiatives and measuring them, operationalizing them as part of your business structures, and then reporting on them and telling shareholders and other stakeholders about it. This wheel is one that you must look at as you thumb through eBook 2. And there are some very practical things that eBook 2 will suggest to you. Here, for example, is the page on how to develop a net zero carbon response, as many Malaysian companies have already done. Very practical, tactical, on-the-ground, actionable things that you can do. The ebook, in this case, doesn't have the checklists that eBook 1 did, but still multiple pages providing the guidance that you need. And then another page here, this one is page 70, how to, as I've been saying repeatedly, how to take that strategy and turning it into action, executing on it. It asks you some clear and sometimes uncomfortable questions about what you need to do. For example, strategy, finance and human resources. How are you going to operationalize ESG in each of these? Same with IT, procurement and risk management. And considering the ebook is produced by PwC, perhaps no surprise, what it means from your tax perspective. Read the questions. Do you already know the answers? And who is going to implement it? eBook 2 also is very clear about who has responsibility, ranging over here from the Sustainability Management Committee all the way to the CEO and the Board Committee on Sustainability, and ultimately you as a director of the company. It spells out very clearly what responsibility you must take, various variabilities, I suppose, notwithstanding. Now, in the previous review of the Bursa Malaysia PLC Transformation eBook 1, I talked about the importance of communication. And to some extent, you would expect me as a communications consultant to do that. But what we also see here in eBook 2 is, in fact, how you need to communicate about these initiatives. Just as we discussed in the first eBook, purpose on its own doesn't really exist unless you tell people about it. And the same goes for sustainability. It's great if you're able to turn your environmental, social and governance initiatives into practice. But then you have to actually go out and also communicate that to stakeholders. And here on page 64, you can see a map for how to do that and who should do that. What role does HR play? What role does procurement and corporate affairs play? All in an effort to ensure that your stakeholders are informed. With that information, that transparency, obviously also comes accountability. And I've left this page to last because even though it's tucked away here on page 79, I found this page particularly impactful. If you like to read, have a look at this page because it doesn't pull any punches. It says up here that it's clear that the corporate world is facing immense pressure to act on ESG from all stakeholders. And the fundamental questions that you need to ask yourself, step back and ask yourself is, what is the company's purpose, your company's purpose? How can ESG play a role in delivering it? And it goes on to say, again, not mincing its words, all of the tangible and realistic actions are in this ebook that PLCs can take today to improve overall ESG response and build resilience. And it implores you to deliver meaningful impact and contribute to long-term national and global goals. It finishes on this paragraph, if all PLCs make significant progress on their ESG journey, our nation of Malaysia will undoubtedly be uplifted to be more sustainable, socially responsible and ethical, supporting a better future for generations to come. So worthwhile reading this text and letting that sink in about how you can also be on that journey from simply talking about ESG and publishing the report to actually weaving it into the value creation of your business. If you need more help, more commentary, especially on the communications aspect, if you want to figure out how to go and talk to stakeholders about it, drop me a line. I'd be very happy to have a further conversation.